My name is Nick Wiley. I am 23 years old, and I just finished my first feature film.
Returning to his hometown here this summer.
Like many of you probably watching this video, I had a dream of making a feature film and didn't really know how to go about it. So I wanted to make like a small series kind of explaining my process as a broke college student, show you my process of how I went about making a feature with pretty much no budget at all, and how you can do the same, hopefully. Start us out, arguably the most important step in filmmaking is the planning process or pre-production. This is pretty much the part where you get all of your ducks in a row so that come time of actually filming, everything goes as smooth as possible. So the beginning of my pre-production process first started with the script. I had just finished up a short film and I was meeting up with some friends, kind of talking about what the next step was, and I just kind of had my mind set on a feature. I was determined. When you're coming up with a story, it's super important that you're writing within a genre that you know that you can do well. You have to keep in mind what gear you'll be able to use, as well as what locations are realistic for you and your budget. So what this means is you might not want to write a script that takes place on a planet with a ton of CGI VFX and insane costuming, unless that's stuff that you're confident in, something that you can do well. Then that's great, do that. But for the majority of us, we don't have access to crazy effects like that. So just keep in mind your budget, what you have at your disposal. Yeah, write a story that is doable. For me, I grew up probably honestly like a lot of you guys, making little skits, with my friends on my little iPod Touch, and they were bad. But that being said, I learned a lot through that process, and comedy was always something that I felt like I could execute decently well. Like I kind of had an idea of how that plays out on screen, so I knew that was the genre that I wanted to stick with. So I came up with the general idea of my film that took place in my hometown and utilized characters and locations that I knew were realistic that I could actually film. So I wrote the whole film on Celtics. I want to say this video is not sponsored by any of these companies that I'm gonna talk about, or any of these softwares, websites, whatever. This is just stuff that I actually used. Most of it is because it was free. So Celtics, I know they have like a lot of subscription options, but I just used the free version because all I really used it for was writing the actual script, and you don't need to pay for that. So everyone's writing process is different. For me, I had just gotten a job at a Thai restaurant washing dishes. I pretty much wake up every day, work on writing for like at least 2 or 3 hours, whether that was at my house or if I go to a coffee shop. And then if I got like writer's block or whatever, I'd go to work, pop in some earbuds, wash some dishes, and just think about how I could further the story, or like any plot holes, like just think through everything. So that was really helpful for me to write the script, take a break, think about the script, and then next morning do the same thing over again. Write all my ideas down that I'd come up with at work, and then spend the rest of the day thinking about what could be next in the script. But I will say, okay, I don't know what I was gonna say. That probably took me about 3 months until the script was done. And I put that in quotations because the next essential part of the pre-production process is to actually share your script with people and get honest feedback. But something to keep in mind is that a feature-length script is long. When you ask somebody to not only read the script, but give you constructive criticism, it's important to keep in mind that they're doing a favor for you, and that's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. If you send it out to people, offer to buy them like a coffee or a beer or something like that. I didn't do that. I just sent the script out to a few people and was like, hey, could you read this and send me notes? And, they read probably like 5 pages and gave up because it's a lot. You're asking a lot of these people. So what I did was I got a group together of some of my more like artistic friends that would give me honest feedback. And we basically just had like a little read through. So I printed off scripts for everybody, brought pins, gave everybody a pin. And yeah, everybody picked a character. We read through the script.
He's more important than all of you.
The audience boos.
He thinks he's really.
And this is super helpful because you get to hear how the story sounds through other people, not just in your head, like it's actually coming alive. So you can hear any parts that sound weird or awkward and write those down. And you're also getting instant feedback from everybody else that's writing their notes down. After that read through, I took everybody's scripts, went home, made all those changes, and had a script that was actually done, or I thought was actually done. You can always work on a script, but I thought it was at a decent point to go forward. Storyboard. This step is important because it really breaks down your script and forces you to think about how you're actually going to shoot it. So like how many shots you're going to need for a scene, or how many angles, any stage direction, camera movements, all of that is going to go into the storyboards. I just used a drawing notebook and divided each page into small sections using a ruler, and then drew every scene out. It's a super time-consuming step, but it really is super important to take the time to really think through the scenes. Another thing that is super helpful when you're doing your storyboards is knowing your locations. So for me, I had been kind of location scouting a little bit before and during the storyboarding process, and taking pictures at those locations that I wanted to shoot so that I could use those pictures as a reference for my storyboarding. And that was really nice because I knew exactly how these rooms were going to be laid out and could accurately draw how the scene would look. This next step is so simple, but oh my gosh, is it so necessary. And it's something that you wouldn't even think of. Like, I'm going to say it and you'd be like, duh, like obviously that needs to happen. But the sooner you do this, everything else is going to just fall into place because it's going to have to. So this next step is picking a date to film. This is important because it'll really motivate you to do all of the following steps and get them in order, because you have a time frame that you need to get them done now. A lot of times, like we want to wait for everything to fall into place, whether that's like getting actors or these perfect locations, or saving up for a camera, or whatever. But reality is that nothing is gonna line up for you, and you're gonna have to make it work. Obviously, you want to give yourself enough time to like figure everything out that you need before shooting your film, but you don't want to give yourself too much time. So for me, I finished up my storyboards at the end of May of 2023, and I gave myself until September to get everything in order and start shooting. So that was just 3 full months of planning, which is not a lot, but it's doable. It is doable. So to really lock it in that I had 3 months and that I was going to shoot in September, the next step for me was to create sides for each character from the script and send out a casting call. A really popular way to do this is through Facebook. I personally don't have Facebook, but one of my best friends, who is actually the main character in the movie, he made a casting call for me and posted it to a bunch of like these local acting pages. That was super helpful. I also reached out to a local acting teacher and sent her, the information on my film, and she was super nice. She like made a posting for me for free on her Instagram page and like her other social medias like Facebook and whatever. And that was really nice. So I'll show you what that casting call looked like. Feel free to pause the video or screenshot this, use this as a template. But yeah, this is pretty much all you'll need. It's important to show the quality of work that you're planning to produce. So whether you hire a DP that has their cinematography reel, like post a link to that. Or if you have your own cinematography reel, post a link to that or any previous work so that actors can get an idea of the quality. If it's good quality, then you're more likely to get traction on your casting calls and you're more likely to just have more actors that are interested in playing a role in this film. I also want to say I did not have a big budget, like at all. So that being said, I knew I was not going to be able to pay actors for this film. So instead, for compensation, I included professional shot footage that can be used in acting reels as well as IMDb credits. So obviously, if you have the ability, you should pay your actors. They are doing a huge favor for you by working for free. And it's just, it's such a time commitment. They're giving a lot to you for, these long shoots. And it's a lot to ask for somebody to give their all to a project for free. Like with this project, I got really lucky with a super talented cast, but often the talented actors won't be interested in projects that don't pay. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you have the money, pay your actors. So once you get your casting call sent out, you have your fingers crossed that people are going to respond, but you have no time to waste because it's on to the next step. Locking down a crew. Also, I want to point out that after you pick a date for your film, whatever steps come next is totally up to you. I'm just kind of telling you the order I did things, but if it makes sense to you to do them in a different order, that's great. Everybody has their own way of doing things. So yeah, feel free to do these in whatever order. But for me, I really wanted to lock down a crew. I just wanted to lock down all the people just so I knew okay, I'm gonna have people there to shoot at this date. So that was just a big stressor for me. So the sooner I could lock that down, the less stress I'd have on my shoulders. The crew for me is where I had planned to spend the majority of my budget. I knew the most necessary things. Obviously, you want good sound and good visuals. So I wanted to hire a director of photography and a production sound mixer. Unfortunately, I only had the budget for one of those, so I chose to hire a DP and then decided that I would try to train my roommates to run audio. But yeah, I just had no money, so that was, even the DP, I was only able to afford for 6 days, so I couldn't even afford them for the full shoot. But anyway, at this point, I kind of have a crew figured out. By that, I mean I have a DP and my roommate, and myself, of course. But yeah, I was just so hyped on the DP, honestly, because he was so talented, and I knew having him on set would be a lot smoother. So I made a Kickstarter campaign pretty early on, but if I could go back, I don't think I would use Kickstarter. They have this policy where you have a time limit to reach the goal you set, and if you don't reach the goal within that time limit, you don't get any of the money that people have pledged to you. It's just an added stressor. So if I were to go back, I'd probably use GoFundMe, because I don't think they have any rules set like that. But just something for you to keep in mind. The next part of the process is probably the most stressful, and that is actually scheduling the shoot days. I'm not a planner. I am very much just a go with the flow person. So yeah, I was scared. But I did end up figuring out a system that worked for me. And if it worked for me, then I'm sure it can work for anybody. For actually planning the shoot, I used another free software from Studio Binder. I'll link it in the description. There was this tool called Stripboards, and basically you can upload your whole script to this website and it breaks down each scene individually. Not perfectly, you have to go through and make little tweaks on your own, but it divides each scene up individually, and for each strip you add like what characters are in the scene, what time of day, what location you're shooting at, how many pages of the script that scene takes up, and then you can estimate how long each scene will take based on how many pages it takes up in the script. So what I did after adding all this information in was I color coded each strip based on their location and then grouped those locations together. Really the only option on our tight budget and tight schedule was to just shoot everything in one location at once to save time on relocating. And I think I started each day around 8 a.m. and then estimated how long each day would take based on the scene's estimated shoot time. Did this for the whole script, and soon I was left with 8 shoot days. I think I might have underestimated the shoot times. But yes, my advice here is if you can afford not to rush, then obviously don't rush. Take your time, give yourself as much time as you need to set up each scene, because if you cram, you're gonna be stressed. Next thing I want to talk about is the script breakdown. So this process is basically going through your whole script and highlighting your props as well as like your characters for each scene. Once I went through the whole script and finished highlighting, I made a document that lays out every prop so I could check them off as I acquired them. I also made note of every costume that'd be needed and how many outfit changes each character would need. And that's the script breakdown. Super simple, but super helpful to know what props are needed. Next, I want to talk about gear. My DP was shooting with Blackmagic 6K, and one of my good friends has a Blackmagic 4K, so I knew that whatever days my DP wouldn't be able to shoot, I could just borrow my friend's camera and hopefully the footage would line up. It kind of worked, but I'll have to talk about that in the next video because that is like on the production side. So my DP, he had his own camera, obviously, but I still needed to figure out lighting and sound. My audio professor told me about this website called Lens Rental and sent me a link to some gear that honestly works perfectly for the project. What was I talking about? Okay, yeah, so Lens Rental was great. Even though we were only filming on weekends, I decided to just rent the gear for the whole month so I didn't have to worry about like shipping the gear every week and having to reorder it and having them ship it back to you. So I just rented it for the whole month, and it really was pretty cheap for like what I got. I think I spent $1,000 on all of the audio equipment for the whole month, and it all worked great. And then for lighting, one of my professors connected me with one of her old students that had a lot of lighting gear that he rented out. So that was really nice. It's just super important when you're working on a project, especially if it's like a personal project. Just reach out to other creatives that are around you because they'll know the struggle of, creating a project, and most likely they'll want to just help you out. So yeah, if you take away anything from this video, I would just say reach out to people, professors, teachers, friends, whatever. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Another software I ended up using was called ShareGrid. This one is really awesome too. It's kind of similar to Lens Rental, but it's all like local. So you put your location in the app and then it'll show you like all the gear that's around you. I use this pretty much every week to rent batteries and C-stands. and it's super cool. Like, you just connect with somebody that's nearby, plan, where to drop off the gear, and that's it. Super cool. And you get to meet other creative people around you. So it's a great app. Definitely check that out. So now you got the script, storyboards, strip boards, aka schedule, your gears figured out, crew pretty much figured out. You're watching auditions, you're telling actors they got the role, you're getting close. An important thing I would say is just meet up with your cast and crew before production actually starts. For your DP, you want to show them your storyboards as well as any location photos that you have, just so they get an idea of kind of how the days are going to play out. They can really start thinking about shots. So if you could print out, like copy your storyboards and print them out for your DP to like take home so they can study, and it's just really helpful. It'll help the shoot days go smooth. It's really helpful to meet up with your cast, like have them come over for like a low stakes read through, and that'll really just help you get comfortable with the actors will get comfortable with each other, and you get to hear how the script is gonna sound through the people who are actually playing the characters, and that's super cool. So trying to go faster to end it up, but some final things. Call sheets. Once again, I found a free template. This one was also from Celtics, and it worked perfectly for me. Super easy. That is also linked in the description. Basically, your call sheets lay out all the information about the shoot days for your cast and crew. And finally is the director binder. This is huge because this has all your information about the shoot that you'll need. So how I set it up, I don't have my binder anymore, but I have all the paper that was in it. I think I had to turn in the binder for like some school project or whatever. But basically, for whatever day I was shooting, I printed out my strip board and put this in the front of the binder so that I could, look at the schedule. I could look at the times on the left side right here. I could see whatever scene we're shooting, make sure we're staying on the schedule here. And then inside, I printed off each scene and put them in order according to the strip board. I'm a super visual person. I know a lot of people use shot lists, but that's just a lot of reading for me. So it helped to have the storyboards for the scene down there so that I can just, it's all on the same page. I can look at the script. I can see what it's supposed to look like. This is the breakdown version of the script. You can see here that I have the props and actors highlighted. This was super helpful so that I could just open the binder, look at the scenes, see who's going to be in the scenes, and see like whatever props I'm going to need for that scene. Yeah, I hope you learned something from this video. Yeah, really the more time that you can spend planning out your film, the smoother it's going to go. So if you have people to help you with pre-production, like that's great. The more people, the better for just the whole filmmaking process. Like filmmaking is so collaborative. So bring people on to help you schedule and look for costumes and props. Just reach out to people because people want to work on cool stuff. I mean, a movie's cool. Who doesn't want to work on a movie? And yeah, making a movie is hard. No beating around the bush. It's hard. It's going to take a lot out of you. So just try and take it one step at a time. Don't get too overwhelmed. Don't be afraid to get creative and go make your movie.